What's up, guys? Michael Corsentino with my April 2017 lighting tutorial for Shutter Magazine. If you guys are looking for even more great photography education, head on over to behindtheshutter.com and get yourself set up with a subscription so you can have the print magazine delivered right to your door, or head over to Barnes & Noble and pick yourself up a copy if you can't wait, because there's tons of great stuff in there. All right, so let's dig right into this month's tutorial. So as you see here on the screen, you can see all sorts of different lighting equipment and lighting modifiers. And that's really what this month's tutorial is all about. There are so many different tools that you have at your disposal, specifically different kinds of lights, and each one creates a different effect, as well as the modifiers that you throw in, which also create a different quality of light. So knowing which tool to choose can be a little bit confusing. So that's why every now and again I like to really focus on one tool in particular and talk about the effect that it creates, so to help you build a vocabulary and know kind of what tool to reach for when you want to create a certain effect. So let's just go over what we've got here on our screen. Obviously we've got a strobe. A strobe can be pretty much anything, because it's got so many modifiers that you can add to strobe. So it really can be all things to all people, which is one of the really great things about strobe, is it's very versatile and flexible. And then we've got daylight fluorescent. Here's a Westcott spider light. This, if you had to ask me what its kind of signature look would be, I would say a very soft light. And obviously it's going to do certain things that only a constant light can do as opposed to a strobe. And sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's not a good thing, but those are the differences. Next up, I've got here tungsten. So the signature for that would be obviously a very warm toned light, obviously, again, a constant light. And rounding out our constant light selection here is a daylight balanced Lupo Fresnel, and this is a focusable light. It allows you to take it to spot or to flood using the controls on the light, and it's also got a variable output, so you can have more or less light output, and it's got barn doors in various ways that you can shape and control the light. Again, kind of a signature look would be a Hollywood glamour look. And harder shadows than soft, I would say. Then you've got umbrellas, you've got octabanks, strip boxes, egg crate grids, reflectors, small reflectors, beauty dishes. So there's just a whole range of different tools that you have at your disposal. Even when we are talking just specifically about strobe, there's a whole range of tools within strobe, and I pulled out some usual suspects here for Pro Photo. So we've got here a ring flash, we've got the standard Pro head strobe, and then we've got their strip light flashes. So you can see here that there's just a wide variety of tools that you have at your disposal. And again, they each are going to do very different things, and you're going to reach for them at different times when you want them to do different things. Some of them they're just going to sit on your shelf for a long time, and you're only going to use them in very, very particular situations, which is kind of the circumstance with a ring light, which is what we're going to focus on today, or ring flash more accurately. So I am partial to the Pro Photo ring flash, and as you guys know, I shoot Elinchrom as well as Pro Photo, and I use Mola beauty dishes, etc., and Elinchrom soft boxes. So I'm not really, I don't focus on one particular brand. What I do is I use the tools that work for the job. The right tools for the job is what I'm all about. And the reason that I like the Pro Photo ring light as opposed to another manufacturer's ring light is for several different reasons. First of all, it's 1200 watt seconds. It is mated with this pack, the 7B. 1200 watt second. You could also use it with the newer packs, the digital packs, the Pro B4, etc. But this is what I have. It's 1200 watt seconds, so that gives me plenty of juice. Whereas some of the other, like Elinchrom's, is 400 watt seconds for their ELB pack, and I like having that extra power. Now you might not need it. Arguably, maybe I don't even need it, but it's what I have and it's what I use, and I like it because it gives me that extra juice if I need it. And it's got a bigger battery and all that. It's a dynamite combo. Again, a very, very kind of one-trick pony tool. It's a tool that does one thing and does it really well, and it's not something that I use every day or something that you're going to use every day, arguably, if you have it. Unless you're a glamour shooter or you shoot a lot of FHM type stuff, it's perfect for that. It's great for rock and roll, as you'll see as well. That's what I'm using it for today. It's got a very specific look, and we'll talk about that look. Some people love it, some people hate it. Obviously, I fall into the love it camp. And I want to talk again about some other reasons why I'm particularly fond of this particular model. It also has a couple of reflectors that come with it that I have not seen from other manufacturers that allow it to really create a variety of looks, which I also like because it's a very harsh look when it's bare. That's how we're going to use it today. I didn't use these reflectors on this particular shoot that we're going to look at. But I have used it on others. I have used this white one, this soft light reflector, often with great effect, and the silver one sometimes as well, if I want a little bit harder, but not quite as hard as using the bare ring flash. Okay, so I'm going to show you some slides of this, but the camera's lens sits right in here, and your camera mounts back here. The lens fits through there like so, right? And we're going to talk about how that's going to impact exposures and metering and all that as well, because it's a very different type of tool. It travels with your camera. It doesn't sit on a light stand. So because of that, there are certain considerations with respect to exposure and metering. All right, so let's take a look at one of the images where I did use this reflector, the soft light reflector, and you'll see kind of what the effect is. So there's one where I did use it. Also, you'll notice here a couple of the signature hallmarks of ring flash. If you look at these catch lights here, they're a circular catch light. It creates a very harsh circular catch light, even with that soft light reflector that I'm using here for. This is a portrait of friends Wendy and Byron Rowe. They're really talented wedding and portrait photographers out in Bend, Oregon. So big shout out to them. Awesome people, awesome photographers. And also, you'll notice it's not as defined here because we're not in the studio, but there's a kind of a halo, a shadow around the subjects, around Wendy and Byron. And that is another one of those kind of hallmarks of ring flash. It's softened a bit because we're using that soft light reflector, but those are just some of the things to be aware of. You will get that effect, and it's even more dramatic in the studio. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now, for those of you guys who are shooting speed lights, I don't want you to think that you're out of luck and that the only way to get this effect is by using a Profoto or an Elinchrom or another ring flash from a larger, pack and head system kind of a solution. My friends over at Expo Imaging have something called the Ray Flash, which you see pictured here, and that mounts onto your strobe, onto your handheld flash, and creates a kind of an ad hoc ring flash effect. And I'll show you something that I shot using that, and there you can see it. So you can see here that there's that shadow that I was talking about, and obviously the catch lights. But for a $200 adapter that goes on your speed light, it's a pretty, hard to argue with effect. It works really well. Creates a pretty polished looking effect for a $200 gadget. All right. Okay, so here is, I'm on set here shooting. This is on location at this motel that we booked to shoot this editorial in. And you can see here the ring flash mounted on my phase 1. And so you can see it's a big rig, unwieldy, heavy, not exactly light on my feet using this thing, but the effects are amazing. It creates really cool effects, and you can see here that I'm using it bare flash. This is not really doing anything. This reflector, it's just kind of hanging out there. We were going to use it for fill, but we didn't end up needing it. So I just wanted to kind of show you what it looks like on my camera. But you can see here that because it's mounted on my camera, wherever I am in relationship to my subjects is going to affect my exposure. It's completely manual. And so the further away that I am from my subjects is going to impact my exposure. And then closer that I am to my subjects is going to impact my exposure. So we're going to talk about that in the next slide. Right. Okay. So when you're shooting with a ring flash and you're shooting in manual, obviously there may be some TTL solutions that I'm not aware of, but I don't use them. I can only kind of speak to what I use. I'm shooting in manual when I'm in a ring flash, and because of that, because the flash is mounted on my camera and travels with me as I move closer and further away from my subject, in order to, once you lock in your exposure, you're going to need to maintain the same distance between your camera and your light, which is the same thing in this case, and your subjects in order to keep a consistent exposure. All right, that makes sense, right? So you'll need to noodle as you move closer and further away. You'll need to adjust the power or take meter readings, all right? Now, also, when it comes to taking meter readings, again, because the light is not on a stand, and because it's with you, you're going to need to either put your meter on a light stand or have an assistant hold your light meter and take the reading for you. And I metered with the Sekonic L758DR. It's kind of my go-to light meter that you see here, along with Pocket Wizard Plus 3s to do the triggering, because the meter will trigger the Pocket Wizard, and the Pocket Wizard is plugged into the ProPhoto pack or an Elinchrom pack if I was using Elinchrom. There is a new Elinchrom a Sekonic version that will control wirelessly. It has a built-in trigger for Elinchrom, and that's really cool. I use that on occasion as well. All right, so let's talk about the quality of light for a ring flash and why I chose this tool for this particular editorial, which we're going to take a look at. Well, it's got a really, really contrasty, harsh, almost kind of like, if you guys have seen Ouija, he's a crime scene photographer from the 40s. It's really kind of harsh, flash on camera kind of look. And it's funny, I mean, you could easily see it fitting into crime scene, but it works really, really well with glamour and fashion and rock and roll because it's got this really harsh, biting kind of look. But because of that, it's not something, as I said, that you're going to use every day. Now, why do I have it pictured next to an umbrella? I have it pictured next to an umbrella because in one respect, it's similar to an umbrella because it puts light everywhere. Okay, you've got very little control about, regarding where the light is going when you're using ring flash. And that was something that really became critical during this shoot because the location had mirrors everywhere. As we'll see, the motel room we were shooting in had mirrors on all of the walls as well as the ceiling. So I had to really be careful about where I shot and from what angles. And you'll see how I made that work to my advantage by shooting from angles and made the mirrors, turned the problem into a solution and turned it into an opportunity. Because when I first looked at that room and I saw all the mirrors, I was a little freaked out. I had forgotten about all the mirrors. That my producer had sent me location shots, and I thought, oh, it's great, but I had forgotten about the mirrors. So when I got there, I was a little shocked, but we made it work. All right. So I want to also walk you through a couple of the documents that I work with, my producer works with, creative director, stylist, models, etc. Any people, assistants are working with on all our shoots. There are a few documents that are common to all those shoots, and I haven't really touched on this in any tutorial yet. So this is what's called a call sheet. It's a production schedule, and it's a document that's shared with the team so that everyone is on point and working with the same set of information and can contact one another. And I encourage you guys all to have call sheets when you're doing your shoots. Circulate them with your team, with the people who are on your shoot. It makes it much easier to make sure that everybody has all the information that they need. So thanks to my producer Audra for setting that up, creating that document. And next are going to be the mood boards. And this is Rachel Velez created these for me based on a Pinterest mood board that I sent her as well, and then she circulated these to the team. So here you can see two mood boards. There's typically two, one for the look and feel, which is on the left, and then one for hair and makeup, which you can see she's called out here by saying hair and makeup. Very cool. So thanks to Rachel for that. Again, I'm going to talk a lot about team throughout these videos, being part of a creative team, and I could not do what I do without an amazing team behind me. So big shout out to them. Big shout out to the models, Sam and Christina, on this piece. You'll see them. They're amazing. So I really encourage you guys to reach out and find great people to work with because it's just going to elevate your work. All right, there's a little bit of a pullback shot of me using the ring flash. here is the room. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges when you're working with mirrors. I wanted to show this to you because when you've got mirrors and you've got a lot of people on set, like I had, there must have been 6 to 8 people in this tiny little motel room. And you can see here that there are all sorts of reflections happening in the mirrors. So it really became critical to really keep an eye on all the mirrors and surfaces, because mirrors will reflect into other mirrors, et cetera, and you can have reflections that you really weren't counting on. So I had to move people back and forth and really make sure that things, including gear, because we didn't have any place to put gear except in this room, to make sure that only what you want in the picture is in the picture, as well as myself. I had to work with angles and height and crouching down and making sure that I wasn't in the picture as well as the ring flash. You got this really bright light and all these mirrors, so it became really critical to make sure that none of that stuff was showing. So here I am shooting at an angle, avoiding the mirror. You can see that. Let me just organize my slides here. Okay. And there's the resulting shot. So here's the angle. You can see me shooting there. And there is the capture, right? And that's color graded and retouched and all that. Next up, I just wanted to throw this slide in. I think it's really great and important to keep your subjects, my models, Sam and Christina, in the loop on what I'm shooting and show them stuff, get them excited about what's going on. It really goes a long way to making them comfortable. And, once they know that they're in good hands, they're really willing to work with you and give you what you need for the shoot. Okay. Now, also, when we talked about mirrors, here's another opportunity. I see all these mirrors. There's a mirror on the opposite side of them. They're facing into a mirror. So why not shoot into that mirror as well and create something like this? Right? So, what initially seemed like an obstacle ends up being a real opportunity. But you can see how there are just so many chances for unwanted reflections that you really have to be careful with how you're shooting and what's in the picture, right? Okay, so then there was a mirror on the ceiling as well. So another really cool opportunity. So there's me shooting up into that, catching the reflection, and here is the resulting shot. Final capture. Okay. Also, angle, height, angle and perspective go a long way to creating really different images. Like if you're always shooting from your line of sight, it ends up being kind of an average looking image, I would say. And then I'll do it, and there are times when it works and it's great, but I always try and really vary things. I want to shoot up high, as I'm doing here. I want to crouch down and shoot down low as well. And it ends up creating a variety of perspectives and a much more interesting and compelling images than if you shoot everything from eye level. So I encourage you guys to do that as well. And here's the resulting image from that shot where I'm elevated. Right? So it definitely creates an interesting perspective and something that looks a little bit more uncommon. Okay, here I am shooting up at Sam, and here I am shooting just pretty much eye level. And there we go. Okay, so let's dig into some of the images. I wanted to talk a little bit about color grading and the creative direction for the piece. And obviously, overall, you can see the quality of light that's created by the ring light and what it does. And I think it's perfect for this subject matter, which is why I chose ring flash, because it's just, you can't beat it for this kind of stuff. So initially, my concept for this was all black and white and this kind of silvery, grainy, kind of, tri-X looking black and white. And just a side note, in terms of post, all of this was done in Capture One Pro. It's amazing tool, Capture One Pro 10, and the color grade as well. We'll take a look at some of that also, because I ended up adding color in later. But it's just a phenomenal tool, and they've got a great grain engine in there, which gives you a really natural looking black and white emulation of grain. So this was my initial concept, was just black and white. But it's really important to always keep your eyes and ears, open when you're being creative, and be open to different influences. And when I saw these Polaroids that my stylist Rachel had taken with this really cool Fuji Polaroid camera, it just like woke me up to the fact that, hey, wait a second, color could be really cool. And this had a really cool kind of cross-processed vintage look that I just loved. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to use some color in this, and color and black and white I think could work really well together. So that's kind of how color came into the picture, and this is what I came up with. It started off with more of a cross-processed cool tone idea in mind, but I ended up going more toward a warmer tone, and this is the color grade that I came up with in Capture One Pro. And I think they work really well together, the black and white and the color style. They create a really nice combination when they're used in spreads like this. Which leads me into my next topic, which is shooting editorially. So when I'm shooting editorially, I'm thinking in terms of spreads. And when I'm doing that, and it's not really so much a conscious thing, like I'm trying to build spreads when I'm shooting, but I'm reminding myself to shoot wide. I'm reminding myself to shoot tight, to shoot 3/4, to shoot detail shots, to get a variety of images that really help to tell a story. So for those of you that are doing wedding photography and event photography, we're all storytellers, and we're all interested in creating a narrative, so to speak. And it's very much the same thing when you're shooting fashion or doing portrait work that's going to be played out in spreads. Anything that's going to involve a layout, to my mind, is an editorial, or a story. And so that's kind of how I'm thinking in the background when I'm working. So that's why you're going to see the variety of shots that you see here. And I'm working outside and I'm working inside, and I'm really trying to tell a story, and there are wardrobe changes. And I'm thinking, the initial story with this was these rock and rollers. They're on the road, and they're in this trashy motel, and they're writing some music, and they're hanging out. It's very intimate. And then they're getting ready to go out on the town, that kind of thing. And just to try to give it some personality. So here we go. As you can see, detail shots and a mixture of color grade there. And again, different perspectives. All the things start to kind of come together, shooting tight, shooting full figure, shooting in series, pairing them in layout format. Works nicely together, right? Same thing here, tight and 3/4. Looking for images that'll work well as spreads. That works nicely as a spread. And then when you put them all together, you can see here as spreads, they really start to work well together as a finished editorial. I'm really happy with this series. I think it turned out really well. And again, it's the result of an entire team effort. You bring everyone bringing their expertise to bear and creating something that is greater than the individual parts. So big shout out to my team, and I encourage you guys to get out there and swing for the fences. I'm going to finish things off with a little behind the scenes video for you, and I look forward to seeing you next month here on Shutter Magazine.
Christina, hold the lighter a little bit.